So, in honor of Black History Month, I would like to share a little personal family history of mine with you all. A story I recently came across from my mother's father's mother, her side of the family. So, my maternal great grandmother, one of my maternal great grandmothers. Okay? So, my great grandmother, Lily Mae. Let's start from her and work our way back. Lily Mae Rush is my great grandmother. That's who married Moses, who ended up having my grandfather James. So her father's name was Benjamin Rush, or Benny Rush Sr. to be exact. He was a farmer and he married a woman named Lily Bell Phillips. So remember the whole naming tradition, Lily named after Lily. Yeah, Lily Bell Phillips. Benjamin's father was Walter Cisco Rush. He was a school teacher in the 1880s. He married a woman named Fanny Lyles. Walter's father was Alfred Rush. And Alfred Rush is who we're going to focus on today. And Walter's mother was Aggie Rush. But yes, Alfred Rush is who we will be focusing on today for our Black History moments. So, who is Alfred Rush? My fourth great grandfather. Alfred Rush was born into slavery around 1811. I don't have an exact documentation of his birth just yet, but he was enslaved by the G family, and his specific enslaver was a lawyer. He was a manservant to this lawyer, and he was the one in the room, standing quietly, but picking up a lot. You know, the whole saying, slaves were better seen than heard, you know, unfortunately. But, you know, it worked out in many favors, such as my fourth great grandfather. He ultimately ended up teaching himself how to read. And by the time emancipation came around, he actually, during the Reconstruction era, ran for South Carolina state representative and won majority vote. He was one of three of the very first Black men, Black people in general, to hold a position in legislation. He was a Republican. You have to understand, during Reconstruction, Republicans were actually more what we see as Democratic today, and Democrats were more of what we see as Republican today. So he was the state representative of South Carolina, representing the county of Darlington. Yeah. So he actually ran on a campaign of free education for all in the state of South Carolina. So he was the state representative for 2 different terms. So he was the state representative for 1868 is when he ran in 1867, got elected in 1868 until 1872. And then again, reelected in 1874 and until 1876. So let's talk about where he went from that point. So he was leaving part of his campaign, a picnic at a church one evening. This was May 13th, 1876. Him and his wife, they were leaving the church picnic, and they were actually stopping to get water for their horse. So this was during a time where him and his wife were literally on horse and buggy heading back home. And about half a mile from their home, when they stopped to get their horse a little bit of water, my fourth great grandfather was ambushed. There was a man hiding, and that man ended up shooting my great grandfather 3 times and ultimately killed him. So my fourth great grandfather was assassinated. The bullets went through, one went through the brain, one went through one part of the face, and one went through his heart, unfortunately. The buggy, the horse, he actually broke free. Was scared, of course, gunshots. The horse broke free and ran off home. At the time, I don't know if she was aware of it or not. I'm pretty sure she was. But his wife, Aggie, my fourth great grandmother, was pregnant with their daughter. So my third great grandfather, Walter, he was about 17 years old when this happened. So fast forward, his body was left there. This was on a Saturday. So his body was left there until the next morning, Sunday morning. And the community was outraged. There was property that was on fire. There were people in the streets. They were very upset because he was very well respected. He was very well loved, and they wanted to understand why this injustice happened, of course, and they wanted to know who did it. So much so that they urged the governor to look into the investigation of his murder. And the governor knew who he was. The governor of South Carolina knew who Alfred Rush was. So he actually put up $400 to find the person who assassinated Alfred Rush. In today's time, that's $10,000. You have to understand how big of a deal that is during that time, a formerly enslaved man during Reconstruction. During Reconstruction, where there are people not from your own community holding positions of power, political power, that care so much about you and see your importance that they put up their own money to find out who killed you. That's a big deal. The man that assassinated my grandfather turned out to be a man named Mr. Purvis, but ultimately was acquitted due to lack of evidence, regardless of my fourth great grandmother's testimony. His death in the papers ended up becoming, quote unquote, shrouded in mystery. But he was not completely forgotten. Fast forward to 2014. Alfred Rush ended up getting a placeholder, a placard, about actually exactly where he ended up being assassinated. And this placard talks about his life and everything that he did. And it's really cool. It really is cool. And they also opened up a school named after him, the Alfred Rush Academy, Representative Alfred Rush Academy in Florence, South Carolina, that is still operating today. How beautiful is that? Again, he had a son named Walter Cisco Rush, who ended up becoming a school teacher. Again, education continues to run throughout the family. And Walter and Fanny, they ended up having my second great grandfather, Benny Rush Sr. Benjamin and Lily Bell ended up having my great grandmother, Lily Mae, who ended up marrying Moses and have my granddaddy James. So that's all, just a quick Black history moment. Thank you for listening, and do not forget to look into your own family history. What is your Black family history? Nothing is lost. You might just have to shuffle around a couple of papers, but uncover your family history.